Okay, One Piece chapter 1145. If I had to sum this up like in one sentence, I would say this chapter is basically be careful what you wish for. And not necessarily for the characters in universe, so much as though it could apply, but not so much the characters in universe, but for me in general, because I was like, man, it seems like the action's getting ready to ramp up, and I really want to see Gunko get into it. And where does she pull up? On the ship, of course, where Nami is. You gotta love it, man. Cause like on that one, like Jinbe, he's gonna have to fight. He's gonna have to fight. And like strategically, it makes sense for Jinbe to be the one that gets targeted. But damn, man, I was not expecting something like this. I'm not even gonna hold you. I was not expecting something like this. So backing things up, first and foremost, like there were two covers. Like I'm reading off of Viz Media's website. The first cover was illustrated by some guy named Matsuda, and I love it. Like the color spread and like seeing Gear 5 on all the television, Zoro just drinking. Everybody looks amazing. Like first and foremost, like I love the Nico Robin and Nami designs. So like they kind of did Nico Robin a little dirty. Like the way they drew a bust, it's like completely spilling out. Like that's not uncommon for One Piece, but I kind of feel like this one's like a little bit more over the top than, how I remember Nico Robin. Like I know that seems like a minuscule thing, but that is something kind of stood out to me. And then also, like I like Frankie's design. Like Frankie looks really good. I would not be mad if Frankie had that kind of a design. Like it looks like that's like some type of camo tank top, and I like it. I like the whole thing. Like I love that one. I love Nami's design too. Like, I think she's got the best one. Like they absolutely cook. They absolutely cook. Now the cover page also dealt with Yamato and yet Ulti and Pepe. Yamato doing her thing. That's something I wouldn't be mad. I don't know if like the One Piece anime animates the cover stories. I wouldn't be mad if the One Piece anime animated that. I would actually sit in and watch it. Again, I've talked about before, I'm not a big fan of the One Piece anime. I tried a few times to get into it, and I never could really get into it. I think the furthest I got was Skypiea, but ironically, I love the manga. So it's like, I would skip ahead to watch this, and I'm a big stickler for wanting to watch things in chronological order. I can't skip over stuff. Even if there's filler, I can't skip over it. So, the big thing early on in this chapter, now we kind of got my initial thoughts out of the way. Big thing in this chapter, in the first part, is you see Sanji and Zoro, they're teaming up and they're taking down some of the wild beasts that are there. And we get a pretty funny moment where after they cut the head off and Sanji gets told, like, yeah, man, we get us some alcohol and some kind of seasoning. He's like, yeah, we got to skim the fat off this. But once we do, this is some good eating right here. And when they talk about the container or a shield, excuse me, not even a container, a shield. And at first I'm looking at it, I'm like, the tongue is out. I'm like, that's odd. And then I start thinking, wait a second, that reminds me of the homies. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens, because we end up finding out that this was basically one of Big Mom's homies. And we find out also that Zeus was a big deal. Now, we knew that just based off of Whole Cake Island, but considering Zeus was basically turned into a Nami simp, I did think that it was very important for us to remember that, Zeus was a bad motherfucker back in the day. So I did like seeing that. I like seeing that. It was like a gradual reminder. Now, the other thing that we got early on in the chapter was after you had the humor moment. You had Luffy, and this was funny as hell too. This is up there with the Luffy big dummy moments. Basically, Luffy's told, and the rest of them, like, yeah, the Holy Knights came, and it's kind of crazy that you got beaten up this badly. Surely you did something that pissed them off. And that's when Loki's like, look, like if I'd have got far enough into the Grand Line to piss these guys off, I'd be king of the world by now. And that's just one of those moments where it's just further building up the fact that, like, hey, Loki's a really big deal. Loki has a lot of potential. And given how strong he is, you do think for a moment, like, how far would he have gone if he just, went into the Grand Line? Granted, he's pretty far in. So, like, would he, like, start all the way, like just go to the front of the ground, he would be a menace. Like imagine this dude pulling up in Alabasta. He would make Crocodile his bitch. Then again, Crocodile might have already been a woman before, so we don't know. But I say that to say, like, it just kind of highlights for me, like, hearing this guy talk about the fact that, like, I would have been king of the world by now, and basically, like, I would have been a legend, etc. It just makes you realize how much the power creeps have happened as One Piece has gone on. Like, it's been done tastefully. It's not anything that is hard to believe, but it is something that is very, very well executed. But the power creep, it is real. Because when we first started the New World, I never would have even remotely have imagined there are characters this strong. And like the further you get into it, it just makes you realize that like Shanks is a really big fucking deal. Like just given what Shamrock can do, it just makes you look at it and realize like whatever Luffy has planned, he's really, really gonna have to level up. Like this is not gonna be easy when he does end up, because I do think that him and Shanks are gonna mix it up. I think that's gonna happen, especially given the foreshadowing. I feel like it's foreshadowing where you got later on in the chapter where it looks like rocks, because Whitebeard was shown also, but like it looks like there was rocks and Loki. Loki was like, take me out to the sea, and they end up fighting, and that just kind of parallels what happened with Shanks and Luffy. So I do kind of feel like they're gonna fight. Like, I think like maybe they're both gonna get to One Piece, or Luffy's gonna give that hat back to Shanks, and Shanks is gonna, they're gonna throw down. Like I don't know how Luffy and Shanks get into it, but I do feel like that's eventually gonna happen. Now, the other thing too is like when Zoro and Sanji get back and they start talking about, oh yeah, look at this meat we caught. This is where the humor comes in. This was the funny part. This was a moment where I laughed so many times over this section. I had to stop and pause for a minute. Like this was genuinely hilarious, where Luffy, as soon as the meat's cooked, he's like, oh good, this is amazing. This tastes very well. And then it looks like it was Sanji, just based on the mannerisms, like in terms of the way that the words are written out. It kind of feels like that was Sanji was saying that it's not just for you. He's like, eat up Loki, and Luffy is just taking the hot meat and he's burning him. He's got his meat all over Loki's face. And then that's when Loki's like, are you trying to kill me? He's like, hey, you need to eat up if you want to recover. And I'm like, oh, that's nice of Luffy. And then just when you think they can't get any worse, after Loki is eating, he's like, let me sit up for a second. Luffy's like, I'm going to go get the soup. This took me out. Luffy picks up this big cup of soup and he's running. He's like, ow, hot, 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 hot. And Loki's like, stay away from me. And I'm like, he is not about to do this. He is not about to pour that hot liquid down his throat. And Luffy's like, yeah, I'm about to pour that liquid down his throat. And then it just takes me out even further. Because when Loki's like, just get away from me, Gerd just turns around and makes the troll face and gets the thumb up. And it's like, Loki is hated. And even Sanji's like, you too, Gerd. And like, for me, I'm like, sweet little Gerd hates you. Like, holy, like that was something I should have come to expect. But man, like, damn, dog. And sure enough, even Zoro's like, for him to be this bad, man, I don't know. Maybe that promise he made to Luffy wasn't necessarily the truth. And that's where my man just speaks up. And he's like, where to find red hair now? Shanks. I'm sorry, I wasn't lying about that. And he tries to weasel his way into getting the rest of his chains unlocked. And he's like, man, if you want to meet Shanks that bad, I kind of understand it, man. Back in the day, I had somebody I used to idolize, and Hadruden's making a face, so Hadruden knows who it is. And you see Luffy and Loki, I kind of feel like had they met under different circumstances, they might have been friends. Like that's just the vibe I'm getting, because they're both just silly as hell. Loki's a liar, but I don't know. Maybe I'm falling for Loki's charm. But basically, Loki's like, there was a guy that, I looked up to, and then we get the flashback, and it's Loki, and it looks like it's rocks again, because like Whitebeard is shown there as well. And he says, I was born in the wrong era. And it's like, okay, like now we're getting there. And like again, that just kind of fits more into what we were getting, in terms of the potential foreshadowing of Shanks versus Luffy. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but Shanks did say, like, when I think it was Green Bull who pulled up at Wano, he's like, "Are you just that afraid of the new era?" And now you have the thing about the wrong era. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Blackbeard even referred to the wrong era too. But then we shift over and we see as the firefighters are trying to put out the flames, and you see the battles going on with Dory and Brogy and with Gabon. They're just raising hell. They're taking everything out. And there's even the line of like, it's a good thing that these things are based off our imagination, because otherwise they would have been even stronger if they were the real thing. And as it looks like Gabon's using observation hockey, he says there's even more of them. I can still feel them. And he says, like, this might be the end of days if Elbaf isn't safe. And that's where we shift over to the firefighters. They're trying to put up the flames. And then we find out, like, it's kind of messed up. The kids are about to walk into the fires, and Gunko's like, yeah, like if the kids walk into the flames, they'll wake up. Absolutely. And the heat is going to make them start crying out for their parents, and then they're going to be consumed by the flames, and they're going to just be burned down. And that's just dark. And it's so dark, I want to see it. But obviously that doesn't happen because Jinbei, he comes in clutch. He uses the shoulder throw. All that water comes in, puts out the flames. And then you see Kowloon. Kowloon is navigating the ship. And you see Nami. She's like, way to go, Jinbei. Everybody's getting super excited. I know somebody's like, this motherfucker would talk about Nami. Absolutely. We got to talk about the princess of One Piece. But then the real princess, not anybody like Nico Robin, not anyone like Vivi. Everybody knows it. If you're in the Patreon Discord server, you get where I was going with that. Oh, man. I can't wait to get caught up, man. I'm about to have so much fun. Now, the other thing, too, is as the kids start walking and Nico Robin's like, Jinbei must be nearby, and her and Chopper feeling some luck and some, okay, we got support. That's when Gunko shows up, and Gunko's like, man, and it's right after Kowloon's like, I still want to save the kids, even though they hate me at the school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then that's where Gunko's like, school isn't the only place to find a perky child. And it looks like she's about to pull up and start fighting. And again, it's got to be, I would assume Brook and Jinbei are going to take the lead. I might be mistaken. Maybe Usopp does something. Maybe Nami busts out with Zeus. Maybe that happens. So I'm going to be very curious, man. I'm going to be very, very curious to see how this goes, because it kind of feels like the Straw Hats overmatched. Like, this has to be a fight that they lose, in my opinion. But my chapter question to you guys, we're going to keep this one pretty simple. If those kids would have walked into the flames, where would that have ranked in terms of the most diabolical moments in One Piece? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Have an awesome day, guys.